tale of 3 powder horns. Okay? So we're talking muskets and the like. You've seen this sort of object before, perhaps not a monster like this. So, it started life. Part of an animal, was it not? This is a cow horn, okay? A horn, when heated, certainly when boiled, becomes workable, malleable, okay? And we can form such into no end of useful vessels, from drinking cups to vessels for gunpowder. 2 I'm about to show you. Big brother, little brother. I acquired very at different times, one of them quite recently, and I'm not entirely sure of their origin, but I have a theory, and that I'm going to share with you. These both have military origins. Okay? They're both actually extremely finely engraved. That's important. The smaller of the 2 bears a number 77. That represents the 77th Regiment of Foot, the East Middlesex Regiment. It also bears, again, exquisitely engraved, various battle honours, locations, battles at which the 77th served. Okay? Regiments get allocated such. This allows us to date this particular flask because we have got Seringapatam, that's Wellesley fighting in India in the 18th century. We've got Thwydad and Peninsula, that's again Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington as we've become, fighting Napoleon's forces in Spain. Napoleonic Wars, late 18th, early 19th century. We've come forward in time. And we keep going and we get locations such as Corfu, the Mediterranean, Malta, likewise, Jamaica and America. This helps us date this horn because the 77th have battle honours for the Crimean War. So we know the object predates the Crimean War of the mid-19th century because there's no such honours inscribed here. We also know that said regiment was in the Mediterranean and the Caribbean in the 1830s and 1840s, and I put it to you that it dates to the 1840s. There's more to this. This larger specimen has a man's name engraved. This was the property of a John Macpherson. In Roman numerals 26, the 26th Regiment of Foot, the Cameronian Regiment, later became the Cameronian, the Scottish Rifles. Great heritage, this regiment. The Cameronians were serving in the Caribbean in the 1840s. And that's the only area during this time frame that I'm interested in, the 1820s to the 1850s, where these units are in the same neck of the woods at roughly the same time, and I think that allows us to date these. There are other common aspects to them. Have a look at the sawtooth edges here and a pronounced peak at one point. Go to the muzzles, the mouths of these flasks, and they're both collared. This one here beautifully pin engraved or nail engraved, revealing this or creating this chevron pattern. And one other aspect, your horn is, let's say, oval or round in section, but both of these, by working, develop facets towards the spout. These have the same origin. Bovine horn has been used to make all sorts of vessels and flasks throughout the world forever. But there are so many common decorative aspects to these, they must have a common origin. And I put it to you that these originate in the Caribbean in the second quarter of the 19th century, and I find that interesting. There's a wee bit of detective work for you. You think you know what these are for, but these contain gunpowder, and your soldier would fill his, let's say, Brown Bess musket from such a flask. I put it to you, no, I don't believe these are actually necessarily pieces that were carried in anger, as it were. I think this is early 19th century tourist fodder, because soldiers were not dispensing powder from flasks and horns at this period. That's inefficient, that's time consuming. For a very long time at that point, soldiers used cartridges, typically paper cartridges, and within a little paper roll, the soldier would have the shot, the bullet, and a measure of powder. And in very theatrical terms, open up your cartridge box, out with the little paper cartouche or cartridge. You've seen this in Sharp perhaps. Use the teeth, open it up, pour in the powder, drop in the ball. The paper can be scrunched up, that serves as wadding, ram it down and you're good to go. These are redundant. I believe these were sold to the visiting British soldiers by local craftspeople. Hey brave John, I love your powder horn. I traded it for some tobacco down at the village. Go see your man, he'll do one for you. That's my theory. And that these were intended to be brought home as souvenirs. You may use a powder horn when you're out hunting perhaps in civilian life, in your dotage. You may just hang it with your pipe above the fireplace as a memento of your foreign service. I love that little journey. I could be wrong, I hope I'm not, I don't think I am, but I think having acquired these and by a process of deduction we have ascertained the nature of these beasts or bits of beasts. Good stuff, eh? Now, we're going to stay with powder horns. There's a Scottish element to this, the Cameronian regiment, they're Scots. This is a Scots powder horn. Very distinctive. Now this appeared at auction very recently and was described as a Scottish Victorian horn powder flask. Because I see a date there, 1861, Victorian powder horn, is it not? No. If you know what you're looking at, you know this cannot, unless it's a forgery of the time, it cannot date to the Victorian era, because these were manufactured in the periphery of the Highlands of Scotland in the late 17th century. Why then, Laidlaw, is it dated 1861? You fool. Well, how's it about we turn this upside down? We don't turn it upside down, we turn it the right way, because there are some initials here, initials DS. So we think we've got it correctly aligned now, and all of a sudden 1861 reads as 1681. It's a late 17th century, highly distinctive Scottish powder horn. And it's a rarity, ladies and gentlemen, make no bones about it. There are peculiarities to these. Of course, we get the Celtic interlace. You can expect to see that in traditional Scottish craft and art. Another feature that intrigues me, and this is common to a lot of them, is the very distinctive application of what appears to be pewter as a decorative element by way of collars around the spout of this flask. This we see commonly on such. The decorative motifs, the interlace, the endorsed fans here, commonly initials and dates. There are variations on the theme, studied by the great Charles Laidlaw, whose collection you can see at the Kelvingrove Museum in Glasgow anytime you care to visit, and I commend it to you. It's been well studied. Who made them? Well, there was a trade, a crafting fraternity known as Horners. They appear in period records, and Horners, of course, they produced spoons and dram beakers and perhaps, well, no doubt, other items, and perhaps powder horns at this period. So we think Horners of Scotland were producing these, likely in the periphery of the Highlands, and because of the preponderance of dated examples, we know that they were popular 1680 to 1700. They die out after that. Why do they die out? Well, it's speculated that it could be to do with ill-fated Jacobite uprisings, you know, at the time of post-Culloden, the carrying of traditional Scottish arms and accoutrements, and indeed the wearing of the tartan plaid was outlawed to an extent. Certainly that would have brought about the demise, but they're gone long before then. I think it's a fashion and economic matter. But there you have it, catalogued as Victorian. Can't blame the auctioneer for that. You can certainly read it that way, but if you know what you're looking at, you go, no, 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 no. There's an anachronism here. I think it's earlier. And you read it the right way, and you get to the nub of it. Now, sadly, more than myself recognised the true nature of this beast at the time of the auction. So I didn't steal it, as it were. But did I get a bargain? I'll leave you to guess. But there's a clue. Good things though, eh?